Salam, muy, and welcome back, my fellow language teachers, to Adventures in Language. I'm your guide, Emily. And in this video, we're talking about how to equitably accommodate individual learner needs. To do that, I'll be addressing one common question that language teachers face, and that's how do you balance granting individual accommodations while maintaining high expectations? Along the way, I'll be sharing key points that every teacher should know, including best practices for granting accommodations and misconceptions about what accessible instruction methods are and aren't supposed to accomplish. For those of you who may not know me yet, I'm Emily. I'm a linguist at Mango. I've got my PhD in bilingual language processing, and I have a real passion for language learning, both as a student and as a teacher. So thanks for joining me on this journey today. To get us started, let me ask you this question. What comes to mind when you hear the word accessibility in the context of your classroom? If you're like most teachers, the first thing that comes to mind is accommodations for learners with disabilities. Now, while that's certainly a big part of it, it's not the whole picture. That's why throughout this video, I'll be unpacking the notion that accessibility is an issue that's relevant to students of all backgrounds and dispositions, not just for students with documented disabilities. And I also hope that by the end of the video, you're left with some fun and easy ways to integrate different kinds of accommodations to your everyday class flow. Well, bando alle ciance, let's get to it. Okay, so the question that we're tackling today is, how do I know whether a particular accommodation will be truly effective for a student's learning versus, say, an unproductive crutch? The truth is that you can't always know 100%. The real question then becomes, what side do you want to err on? Providing too many accommodations or too few? Now, it's true that granting too many accommodations could result in potentially lowering the bar for your class. But on the flip side, granting too few could end up perpetuating unnecessary barriers to student learning. Now, if you're like most teachers, you spend a fair amount of time and energy asking yourself, how do you balance granting individual student accommodations while maintaining equity, fairness, and high expectations for your classroom? Those are things that we struggle with a lot. So if I had to bet, I'd venture to say that you've asked yourself at least one of the following questions at some point during your career. Am I too lenient? Am I too strict? Am I properly discerning my students' needs? Is that student trying to take advantage of the system? Are they getting the support that they need? Would providing an extension for that student help them or enable them with poor time management? While there is a lot of gray area, there are some helpful points to keep in mind, and I'm going to go through those with you right now. Importantly, you shouldn't have to be making all of these decisions on your own. Unless you also happen to be a learning specialist, a medical health professional, or a trained therapist, you can't possibly diagnose and prescribe accommodations accurately for all of your students. So don't expect yourself to have all of the answers or solve all of the problems. For all the big decisions, lean on the expertise that you have available to you at your school. That could be school policy, documented accommodation forms, IEPs. Of course, there are 1,001 little day-to-day decisions that don't fall neatly within documented accommodations. So for those, the main thing to remember is this. Accommodations are meant to level the playing field, not lower expectations. Accommodations aren't meant to dumb down the content, give students an unfair advantage, or lower expectations. What they are meant to do is make it possible for students to perform and practice the content without being impeded by unnecessary barriers. And if a student should ever come up to you and say that they feel the accommodations you've granted for another student seem unfair, hear them out, listen to their perspective, but also gently remind them that fair doesn't always mean same. In fact, so-called neurotypical or abled students receive modification support all the time. The main difference there is that the kinds of support that they receive tend to be seen as normal, right? Tutoring, eyeglasses, study guides. Support for students with learning disabilities are actually not all that different. For example, if a student has a documented challenge with their working memory, granting them time and a half for a test doesn't give them an unfair advantage. It actually levels the playing field. That's clearly different from unproductive accommodations, like regularly granting extensions for a student who may be taking advantage of your leniency. Now, we won't pretend that this is a clear-cut science. It's messy. But at the end of the day, remember this. Your Northern Star is not, where should I place the bar for this student? But rather, how can I keep the bar where it is and help the student reach it? And finally, stay curious. Best practices change, school policies shift, and supportive technology evolves. Speaking of supportive technology, if you don't already use the Mango Languages app with your students, then check it out. It's a great classroom supplement, and it's also ADA compliant, which means that, among other things, it maintains adequate color contrast, works with screen readers like Apple VoiceOver and Android TalkBack, and it makes sure that our content is labeled with alt tags so that learners of different needs can access it. To learn more about the Mango app yourself, check out our white paper, which is linked in the description down below. It outlines how the app's unique features can help offer an innovative entry point for learners of diverse needs. Point is, teachers, keep asking questions, keep innovating, and keep checking in. The most important thing is for us to be intentional and reflective, and to show ourselves a little bit of grace along the way. Well, my fellow language teachers, that's all for this time on Adventures in Language. If you want to stay up to date on all of the awesome language teacher content that we have for you, then come join the Mango fam by subscribing to the channel. And if you tell a couple of your friends about us, even better. We appreciate you. Psst, want to know what languages were used in today's video? Then check out the notes in the description text. Helali, hey hey, and I look forward to seeing you here next time. Bye. Me again. Don't forget to get your free language teacher goodies, which you can access through the link in the description. In next week's video, we're diving into how you can make your class optimally accessible to each of your students while avoiding teacher burnout. And if you want to be the first to know when that video goes live, then ring that notification bell. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.